Welcome back to another video, and this is my collective makeup review for the month of November. Welcome back, and today we are going to be finally having my very overdue collective makeup review video, and this is for the month of November. And in this video, as we have done with a couple of previous ones, we're going to be putting these into categories. So we usually have 4 categories, which are from all the way to the no buy to the one that this is my absolute favorite. It's gonna go to end of the year favorites. For this particular review, there is one product that I put into the category that don't buy. Then we have a couple of like meh products, and then we have good products, but we also didn't have any like excellent products in this one. So that kind of tells where we are. So most of the products for this month were either meh or they were good, but luckily we didn't have luckily there was like only one really product that I wouldn't recommend, but also kind of shame that there wasn't any like new favorites. But that also is maybe related to the fact that we were kind of having just like new shades from existing product that I have previously already featured on my sort of product favorite. So I also don't want to have too many like repetition, because I was kind of expecting to already like them based on the fact that I've liked the formulations before. But without further ado, let's start actually going through the products that I have. And from the products you are gonna see some like swatches on this side of the screen somewhere, so you kind of see how they look against the skin. But anyway, let's start talking about the products that I have for this month. First one is the only product that is in the don't buy category, and this is the NARS Light Reflecting Primer. This is a deluxe mini that I got when I was shopping one of our NARS retailers, because we now have quite a few ones and they were basically giving out freebies when they did the launch here. So this, what they are advertising this to be, is a like hydrating primer. It has, when you initially put this on your skin, you're gonna see it in the image in the corner of the screen. It looks kind of orangey, but actually when you spread it on your skin there isn't like any tint to it. Why I put this in the no buy category, so I think full price this is quite pricey. I think it goes around 40 or 50 euros. Check on your own retailer how much it is. But even though it says it's hydrating primer, and I'm someone who has a dry combo skin these days, so my skin isn't super dry, but especially now that we are in the sort of fall season, I can definitely see that it is getting on the drier side again. But I feel that this really didn't do anything for me, and I'm kind of thinking that, okay, if you are then a person who suffers from an extremely dry skin, then I think this might be just waste of money, because once this sinks into your skin, like, it kind of, yeah, maybe evens out your skin a little bit, but I just think that overall it didn't do much anything. And then when you consider that this isn't exactly a cheap product, especially if you buy it on full size, I just can't see that who this would be for. So for me, I'm just putting this here because I don't feel that it actually did what it was advertising to do. Because if you are suffering from a very dry skin, I can understand that then you want something that like plumps your skin, that really like preps your skin properly to the foundation and other products you might be laying over top of it. And while it did feel nice on the skin, but even as someone who has a dry combo skin, I just didn't feel that it didn't really give, like, you initially felt some hydration, but once it like sunk into your skin, the hydration kind of disappeared. So I think just overall it's like a pretty useless product. I'm obviously gonna be using this one up because I don't have like that much left of it anymore, but just as an overall I don't feel it really did anything. Okay, then let's next move to the meh category of products, and in here I'm kind of like eyeing, oh yeah, this one goes to, yeah. So let's start first with a product that I had difficult time categorizing this one because I'm kind of loving it, but I'm also kind of hating it. So this was from the Dior holiday collection, and this was the limited edition liquid highlighter. So it is the Forever Glow Maximizer, and this is in the shade Abracadadior. So I'm gonna put this close by, and I'm a bit unsure is my camera picking up the sort of very like small pink reflex this has, but basically it looks like a all white highlighter initially in the tube. I actually do have a sort of like demo like how this actually looked on my cheek, so I'm actually gonna use that picture because I think it kind of gives a more realistic impression of this one. So as you can see from the image, this is very sparkly. It kind of, the sparkles end up looking on me, it looks almost like rather peachy rather than pinky, which was kind of surprising, but it wasn't the issue that I had with this one. But I do think like if you are looking for a sparkly liquid highlighter, this is beautiful. However, we are with the issue that is something that I have discussed quite extensively. I'm someone in my 30s and my skin isn't as smooth as it used to be when I was in my I'm in my 30s and it is not as smooth as it was in my 20s. My skin is not there when it was when I was in my 20s. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. So this is kind of on the edge that isn't emphasizing too much texture, because on the other hand I absolutely love the effects. Like if you are truly looking for something very special in terms of sparkly liquid highlighters, like yeah, this is Dior and it's pretty expensive, but I do think this is pretty unique also what we see, because a lot of times on luxury brands we don't see a lot of adventurous things, but I do think this is pretty adventurous for especially like Dior. But then on the other hand, I'm kind of thinking that, okay, yeah, but is it actually looking good on my cheeks, even though I'm kind of liking the effect that it has. So this was a very, how would I say, it's a very mixed reaction, because I do kind of like the effect, but I also am not sure how suitable this is considering my skin concerns these days. I would say that if you love your sparkly liquid highlighters, this is like, you will truly get a very sparkly effect with this one. And I have the pink variation of this one from their staple line, and if you have tried the more like shades that are in this particular product in their staple line, this is truly a bit different because this has a lot more sparkle to it. The pink shade that I have from their like staple line in the same formula, it is definitely much more like this, gives the more like smoother, just like glow to your cheeks. This one you are getting sparkles, so I think also you have to be aware that if you buy this one and you have tried some of the other shades, the formula of this one is different. But yeah, this probably goes to the category that I have to say the most confusing product that I've tried this year. This would be it, because I can't really, even having tried this now several weeks, I can't really still say definitely that do I love it or hate it, because I kind of love it, but I also don't kind of like it for the fact that it kind of emphasizes also texture. So yeah, as I said, you really have to like decide that is the sort of sparkly effect worth it if you are someone like me who already has a lot of texture on their cheekbones. So if you're still willing to like overlook the fact that it might emphasize a bit of the texture, but you actually still like the very sparkly effect this gives, then this probably is worth it to you. But if you don't sort of like the fact that it also is going to emphasize textures you have, then this is probably not going to be worth it, and this is pretty expensive for a liquid highlighter, so that's also I would make a very careful consideration, do you want to spend the money on this one. Then on the meh category is a Fenty lip liner, so this is in the shade Riri. I got this in the set with one of the holiday sets. We're going to be seeing the gloss later in this video, and maybe we're going to discuss then that was maybe smart that they included this particular shade on the set. So this is a deep, what I would say, deep mauvish purplish lip liner. I would say that it is an okay lip liner. This is the more sharpenable, this is like the sharpenable variation, so you are able to sharpen this once you use this up. These are more on the, what I would say, creamy side. It's why I put this on the meh category is maybe because there isn't anything inherently wrong with this one, but what I would say is that considering that these are still like more, Fenty is still a bit more on the pricier side. I think considering the drugstore lip liners I have, like if I would not have gotten this on a set, I would not have probably spent the money on this separately, because I do think the drugstore lip liners that I have, they do just as good a job as this one. So if you are looking for more of a creamier lip liner at a more of a higher price point, you are probably not going to be disappointed with this one. I do think Fenty Beauty's quality generally is pretty good, but I just don't think that this is necessarily maybe worth its money, like worth its price comparing the drugstore lip liners that I have that do a very similar job. So it works out, it's nice, but if I would not have gotten this on a set, I would not have bought it separately. Then we have a couple of Patrick Ta products. I had these kind of also did cause me some trouble how I wanted to rank these, because there are good sides in these ones, but then I had to consider that these are more pricier. So first one is the Bullet Matte Lipsticks, and mine is in the shade Flushed. I was actually expecting this to be a cool toned pink shade, but as with a lot of like cool tone looking shades, this actually ended up looking a bit more peachy on my lips. So if you have tried Pat McGrath Matte Trans Lipstick or any other these sort of high-end luxury bullet matte lipsticks or even drugstore ones, it is the kind of lipstick that is you're gonna get a very opaque finish with this one, and it kind of leaves this kind of layer underneath, so once you eat and drink there is still gonna be some product on your lips, even though it's not a full-on like liquid lipstick that's gonna completely stay on put. Why this goes to the matte category is for the fact that I do feel that this is a bit tucky, so this isn't as smooth as, for example, the Pat McGrath lipstick in this sort of very similar formula. I did like the shade, even if it did turn out more like peachy leaning to me rather than maybe cool tone pink that I was actually expecting this to look on my lips. But just like considering the price of this one, I don't think necessarily that considering the Patrick Ta lipstick, these are more expensive. That is this like, as I said, I do think the Pat McGrath ones are a bit better in terms of formula. Also something I wasn't appreciating this one, so the cap of this one, it's pretty flimsy, it feels pretty cheap, there isn't like any magnetic closure in this one, so also maybe even though I kind of like the rose gold packaging design overall, I do think the packaging, the cap feels a bit flimsy, again considering that you are paying for more of a high-end lipstick. So I think if you're looking for these sort of bullet matte lipsticks, you might be getting like, I would still go with the Pat McGrath ones or maybe some other high-end variation. I don't think the Patrick Ta one. These are like nice, but it isn't like, again, maybe worth the money, that worth the price that the brand is charging these for. Okay, then something that was a bit of a nostalgia thing, so I actually ended up getting the Cheek Duo. So this is the original liquid blush that I remember first being very excited about, but it's been like a quite many years since I had I had one of the original ones that came out, it was the reddish one. So this was from the, because Patrick Ta has extended line, so this is the She Goes to the Gym shade, and these have the powder variation and then there is the cream variation. And I do appreciate from Patrick Ta that at least in terms of packaging, I think this is more in line with what the brand is charging for. You get a cap for the, like there's a proper plastic cap like shielding the cream formula in, so the cream and powder don't get mixed up, and this actually feels like, it feels decently heavy and feels like a high-end product. So why is this on the meh category? And I was kind of like thinking that the original reason why I did end up decluttering was the original Cheek Duo. Well, first of all, it was getting old by the time I decluttered, and also when I was decluttering, I had come into the conclusion that by the time we had already then gotten some better formulas. And I wanted to get back into this formula and see that how do I feel about it now, since especially the cream formula used to be my OG favorite, like cream blush. First of all, I would have to say that if you especially buy this particular shade, these are pretty pigmented. That is a preference thing, you're either gonna love it or hate it. I like my blushes to be a bit more on the pigmented side, so I don't mind it. But I do feel that the powder and both the cream blush both are a bit, that they did tend to get a bit patchy when you started working with them. Once you did work with them, you were able to blend them out, but I just feel that considering now all the other powder and cream formulas, because we've been on this blush craze in the makeup community for like quite a few years now, I do think I have tried both smoother blushes, like powder blushes, and smoother cream blushes. I feel that I did have to maybe work with these a bit more than I would have liked, considering especially that these are more expensive products. But I do have to say I still do like the shade. I'm not gonna declutter this one because I did end up liking the shade. I have been like maybe more into these like deeper blush shades. We are gonna see another one in my sort of good part of this video. But yeah, I think we have gotten, like, my conclusion there a few years ago when I ended up decluttering the original shade I had in this particular product was that we have now gotten maybe a bit better formulas. But I do still think that it is a, like, I would say for a high-end blush duo, it is still an okay formula, but I would just say maybe hope that it would have been maybe a bit smoother to work with. But yeah. I do know there are still people who do love these duos, but for me, I think that I was right. There are now better things available in the market. But I do think it was kind of fun to try this out again because, as I said, this is a more what I would say a nostalgic product for me. I just realized when I looked into my table, we literally have 3 blushes in the good category. We're gonna be doing maybe a bit ranking with these ones. So first one that we are gonna be talking about in the good category of this one. So this is the blush from the holiday collection, and this is actually in the holiday collection. They had also some products in the Backstage line, and this is one of the Dior reformulated basically the whole blush range in the in the Backstage line, and this is now the like new formula. So I have never tried this particular Backstage blush in the original format, and I haven't also tried it reformulated ones until this one. So I didn't have a lot of like expectation, or I was just kind of going to it that okay, let's see what it's kind of like, because some people seem to love these and some people seem to hate these. That's basically what I've gathered. First of all, this particular shade, so mine is in the shade 850 Starry Mauve. I do think instead of mauve, this is actually like a muted pink would be a good description for this one. This is pretty pigmented. I don't know why I was kind of expecting that this would be more like, I don't know, somehow like more buildable, but this is actually, at least this particular shade is more on the pigmented side. So if you buy this shade, you can go light-handed, because if you do what I did for the first time when I went like brush straight in and then I went on my cheek, I was thinking that okay, there's quite a lot more punch than I was expecting. But yeah, I think it's a pretty nice formula. That is the reason why it's in a good category. However, is it anything exceptional for powder blushes? No, and considering that this is Dior, it's more pricey. I would like really make the consideration that do you actually have something similar already. But I do like the shade and I think it works out nicely. It's a more on the pigmented side, which is the blush preferences I have, but this is something that if you go a bit lighter handed, it is still like workable, so it's not something that's completely like that you basically can't get this to blend out if you get a bit too much on your cheeks. But yeah, also I do like this sort of muted pink shade. It looks quite nice on me. There's altogether 3 variations in the holiday collection with these blushes. There's one, I think, deeper reddish shade, and then they do have one of a paler, is it a paler pink? I can't remember because there's one lighter shade in the sort of holiday collection from this one. But yeah, it's a nice powder blush, but do maybe consider, because it's Dior prices, that do you actually want to spend the money on this one, or do you actually already have something similar? Then there's something that has been on my try list for quite some while, and now I finally got this. So I finally got one of the NYX Buttermelt blushes, and this is in the shade 08, getting Butta. Yeah, and again we are having a bit more on the, I would say, muted reddish. This maybe is more on the like pink side, but anyway. So unlike the Dior, this is very, like with the Dior you could work it a little bit. This is very pigmented, so if you don't like super pigmented blushes, don't get this particular formula. This goes to the same goes to the like bronzer that I have in this particular range, and also the highlighter is quite blingy, but I do feel that still after now having tried the bronzer and this blush and the highlighter in the range, I do have to say the highlighter formula is probably my sort of favorite from these ones. But if you are like into your, why I put this in the good and not the meh categories, but first of all, I'm a person who likes a more punchier blush, and I do think that even though it's a pretty pigmented formula, it is still very workable formula, and it's still very something that blends really easily. So because with a lot of like pigmented blushes, and especially on the drugstore side, there is usually the issue that they can be very hard to work with and they are very pigment forward. This is a pigment forward, but it's luckily a smooth formula, so you're able to smooth this out. But what I do is that I just take a little bit onto my brush and then start working it into my skin. With this one, if you go very heavy-handed, you're gonna be having clown cheeks, which is fine because I do know that with some people prefer that kind of cheek, but I would still like to have a bit more like not so maybe bright clown cheeks, even though I do like my blush to show up. But yeah, I mean, if you are looking for a very smooth, good like pigmented drugstore blush formula, I can see why a lot of people have been liking this one, and I do think it's a good drugstore formula, but just be aware that this will be very pigmented. Then I think from the like sort of good blushes, which ended up being my favorite, and this was very interesting because I do now think NARS does 2 different formulas depending how they are including their blushes. So I actually ended up buying the mini of the Orgasm blush. So I actually have never tried the original Orgasm, so this was the first time actually I'm gonna show this. So this was their sort of OG. It has sort of a bit of a golden reflect to it. So I did rank the sort of individual deep throat shade when NARS reformulated their blushes last year, and I actually ended up saying that I have the full size shade than the deep throat one. It's a more like matte leaning shade, and with that one I do have to say that it was one of my like favorite formulas because of the fact that it was very smooth, it was effortless to work with, it was more on the buildable side, but I didn't mind it because it just looked so nice on the cheek. This is very similar to the one, to the full-size version that I have in the other shade. It has a bit more sheen to it, but it's not like that shimmery, maybe when you consider those thinking that the Orgasm, that it might be a bit like more like glowier, but actually I don't think the shimmer it's that apparent once you start blending this on your cheek. However, what is interesting and why this was what curious discovery was that because I got the summer quad from NARS from this year, so I got one of the summer face palette. It was in the blue, which was the fair variation, and with that one I was a bit confused because the blushes in that one were really pigmented. So I'm now considering that even though they kinda, and I think even the blush shades might have been like shades in the face palette that had been recycled shades, meaning they have the shades in their staple line, but the formula was a lot more pigmented than the individual blush I tried doing last year. And now this one again is closer to the full-size blush individual blush that I got during last year, and not as pigmented as the sort of blush that was in the quad. So I'm now thinking that is it so that NARS is putting different formula on their face palette compared to these individuals, because I do feel that this formula again is very different from the formula that was in the face palette, because this is the more buildable, more like what I would say maybe a bit more like effortless to work with formula, considering like I did say that I do like the I did end up liking the formulas that were in the face palette, but I do feel that in the face palette the summer palette the formula is different than what is in this individual blush. So yeah, that is just something that I maybe comment down below, that if you have tried the NARS blushes in their face palette versus the individual blushes, that have you noticed a difference, because I definitely think that there is a difference between these individuals and in the shades that they put in their face palettes. But still, as I said, because this is closer to the individual powder blush formula that was in the individual blush I tried last year, this goes to the good category. But because I have already featured this on my yearly favorites during last year, I'm not gonna do feature this again during this year, because I don't want to maybe have too many repeating products. Then let's get to the sort of non-cheek products. So first one is something that goes to the fact that I am giving a lot of brownie points that this brand finally did a good mascara. So this is the mascara that I'm currently wearing and have been wearing for quite a while. So this is the Makeup Revolution, and this was the Lash mascara. And this is a tubing formula, and it has this sort of a skinnier plastic wand to it. So yeah, Makeup Revolution finally did a good mascara. Why this is good and not in the excellent category is in the fact that while I think this does maybe everything that I want mascara to do, is that there is a limit to it. So I think the kind of result you're seeing today is the maximum you are able to get this one, because I did notice that once you have gotten to when you go over 2 coats, it there's kind of limit how much you can build this, because I noticed that after when you went over with this a couple of times, it started getting a bit more clumpier, and it wasn't actually maybe doing anything anymore to your lashes. So this is very much a mascara that it has a limit how much you can build this one, because after a certain point it's gonna kind of starts getting a bit clumpier, and it really doesn't seem to build any more, for example, length to your lashes. But I do have to say that if you are looking for a good tubing mascara in a drugstore, sort of range, and you, for example, Makeup Revolution is more accessible to you, I do say that I would actually recommend this one. If you don't like tubing mascaras, I'm not still a fan of tubing mascaras because I don't like the process of taking these ones off, but if you don't like tubing mascaras, then maybe don't go with this one. But if you can get over, for example, I can deal with the removal process even though I'm not a fan of it, I do think this is a pretty good mascara for the drugstore. But just be aware that there is limit to it. But I do think overall it does what I want from mascara. I get both length, separation and volume from this one. I could maybe do a bit more, but I am still happy with the end result you're able to get this one. So yeah. Try this one out if you're able to get Makeup Revolution. Then something that I got in the Fenty sort of holiday set with the lip liner. So this is the Gloss Bomb and this is the Grape Splash. And I think this was initially exclusive to a Fenty boutique in New York, and then they brought this out in the holiday set with the lip liner features earlier. This is a very... I obviously like the Gloss Bomb formula. I have said several times it's one of my favorite gloss formulas. Again, that's the reason why this isn't gonna go to the end of the year favorites, because I have said previously that this is a formula that I like. And it's very on par with the other Gloss Bombs. And what I do especially like with this one is that it has this kind of very fun lilac blue reflect to it, which kind of makes this a pretty even in my quite extensive like lip gloss collection, this is pretty unique shade and I do kind of like the effect. I'd say the only like minus point for this one is that so these two are included in a holiday set if you buy this, and I don't think that the gloss goes with the lip liner that well, because I do feel that it's like a bit too deep of a lip liner, at least on my like my particular lips. I'm a very fair person, so it doesn't take much for a lip liner to go pretty deep on me, but I feel that if you use, like when I use this together, the lip liner kind of eats away the sort of holographic like purple and like blue sparkles that this has, so you are gonna get still like a nice gloss, because obviously it's a pinkish leaning shade, but you are kind of gonna lose the sort of bluish and lilac sparkles if you use it together with this one. Like if you, for example, go with this one all over your lips. I think if you just line your lips and then you put this onto your like inner parts of lips, then you are still gonna have the like lilac and bluish like sparkle effect to it. But if you like color your lips all over with this one, then it's gonna like kind of takes away sort of specialty of this gloss. So this gloss shade. So that's, I think, was something that I thought would be important to mention, because it was kind of something that I noticed and I was thinking that yeah, maybe I think if this would have been a paler shade, then it would have maybe matched this one better, but that's just being nitpicky, because I'm still gonna say that when used individually or used with another lip liner that is a bit more paler, I do think this is a very nice and so what I would say a unique gloss bomb variation. Sort of my collective makeup review for the month of November. Comment down below, was there some favorites, or maybe if you have tried some of these products and you didn't like them, maybe also let us know what you didn't like about them so we can make smarter buying decisions. Also, if you have had maybe some top 3 or top 4 favorite makeup products that you've been trying during the last month, then let us know. If you like this video, push the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell button if you want to get notifications from future content. You can also find me with the same nickname, Makeup Hedgehog, on Instagram. I hope I can see another video. Bye bye!